He expected the alien commander to be cold, but what happened alone in her quarters changed everything. Lieutenant Commander Aaron Cole did not expect warmth when he stepped onto the Alliance flagship. He expected cold lights, cold looks, and colder rules. He got all three the moment the airlock cycled, and the ship's seal hissed shut behind him. The corridor ahead curved like a steel ribcage, pulsing with faint lines of alien glyphs. Crew moved with careful speed. Some stared. A few did not bother to hide it. Humans were still new out here. Aaron stood straight in the reception bay, uniform smooth, boots bright, mind steady. He breathed once, deep and slow. He had trained for this. He had fought for this slot. First human liaison on an Orion-class warship. A small step for Earth, a dangerous step for him. Lieutenant Commander Cole, a gravelly voice called. He turned. The officer waiting for him was tall and scaled, eyes like polished stone. "I am Lieutenant Herricks. The captain will see you." Herricks led him through a spine of corridors. The ship felt alive. Walls flexed with soft light. Status icons flowed like water. Aaron did not understand the patterns yet, but he felt the rhythm. No wasted motion, no idle space. Discipline in metal, war written into every bulkhead. They entered the command deck. It was circular, wide, and quiet in the way of places that decide life and death. Holograms turned like slow planets. Stations sat in precise rings. At the center stood Commander Saris Vale. Aaron had studied her file. Solaran, born in the Rhea system. Enhanced senses. Fast reaction time, youngest to hold this command. But records did not prepare him for presence. Sarah stood tall and still the way a blade stands in a sheath, calm but ready. Her skin held a deep copper glow under the bridge lights. Silver hair fell in a clean line to her shoulders. Her eyes were a cool violet, and they did not soften. "Lieutenant Commander Cole," she said. Her voice was level. No welcome, no threat. "Just fact, Commander Vale," he answered. "Reporting for duty." "The High Council assigns you as liaison," she said. "You will translate human protocols. You will not interfere with combat doctrine. You will be useful. Can you do this?" "Yes, Commander." A small pause. "We patrol 12 systems at the edge," she went on. "We hold a line the Dracon would break if they could. This is not a parade ship." "I understand the risk," Aaron said. Her eyes searched him for a heartbeat. "We will see." She turned away with clean precision. "First Officer 10 will brief you. Shift at 0600. Dismissed." Aaron saluted and stepped back. As he left, he felt the brief weight of her gaze on his shoulders. It was not curiosity, it was measure. Herricks guided him to quarters 2 decks below. "You spoke without shaking," the scaled officer noted. The tone was almost friendly. "Was I supposed to shake?" Aaron asked. "Most do the first time," Herricks said. "She is exact. But fair," he lowered his voice. "She lost her world to the Draken. She does not lose anything again." The door to Aaron's cabin slid open. A compact room. A narrow bed. A desk built into the wall. A pane of glass showing the ship's long hull and beyond hard stars. Aaron set down his small duffel. No clutter. No comfort. That was fine. He touched the window. He could not feel the cold of space, but he imagined it. He had grown up under skies that hid their stars in city haze. Out here the sky had teeth. The next days moved like a drill. Aaron learned ship time. He learned the drop cadence of the alarm. He watched how the crew spoke with their hands when they needed speed, and with their eyes when they needed quiet. He translated human safety blocks into Alliance code. He found errors and corrected them fast. He earned a nod from First Officer 10. He earned nothing from Saris Vale except orders precise and clean. At mess, a scientist from Earth, Lieutenant Mia Lark, sat across from him. "Don't take it personal," she said, tapping her fork against a tray of blue grain. "She runs hot under ice." "She runs the ship," Aaron said. "That is enough." Mia's smile was quick and sad. "The Edge changes people. The Draken makes sure of it." Aaron did not ask for stories. He already had one. A forward outpost where he'd held a line with 6 soldiers and a broken turret for 7 hours. It ends with smoke in his lungs and a promise in his chest. If humans were to earn a place out here, they would earn it with work and with courage. With both, or with neither. On the 5th night, the ship's hum changed. Soft. Subtle. Like a throat clearing in a quiet room. Aaron paused in engineering, hands still on a console he was auditing. The comm on his collar clicked. "Lieutenant Commander Cole," a calm voice said. Commander Vale's voice. Report to Maintenance Bay 12 immediately. Aaron glanced at the engineer beside him. The alien's crest twitched. That bay is near the outer hull, the engineer said. Little used. For what purpose, Commander? Aaron asked, keeping his tone neutral. A short pause. Purpose will be clear on arrival, she said. The channel cut. Aaron set the console to safe. He stepped into the corridor. The path to Bay 12 was long and curved and quiet. No crew, no chatter. Only the ship's slow heartbeat and his own, faster now. The lights grew dimmer near the hull. Cold air touched his face. The door to Bay 12 waited ahead, marked by a single band of violet. He stopped with his hand above the access pad. He listened. Nothing. He should call for a second officer. He should request orders in writing. He should follow 10 safe rules. He pressed his palm to the pad. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Darkness waited inside. Panels glowed in thin lines like constellations. The space smelled faintly of hot metal and ozone. He stepped in. The door shut behind him. The room felt like a held breath. Commander Vale, he called. Silence. Then a voice, low and even, from the shadows. Close the manual lock, Lieutenant Commander, she said. And do not call this bay again over comms. Aaron reached for the lock. His fingers hovered, then turned the lever. It clicked home. His heart thudded once hard. He did not know if danger waited or a test waited, but he knew one thing as clear as a star in vacuum. Whatever this was, it would change his place on this ship. It might change more than that. It might change the whole line. The heavy door sealed behind Aaron with a metallic echo that rolled across the maintenance bay. For a moment, the only light came from the faint pulse of control panels lining the walls, their alien symbols breathing like quiet embers. The air was still, heavy with machine heat and the faint tang of lubricant. Then a figure stepped forward from the gloom. Commander Saris Vale. Her presence was like a blade drawn under low light, sharp, beautiful and dangerous. Her silver hair reflected the glow from the panels in rippling strands, and her copper-toned skin seemed to hold its own radiance. But it was her eyes, cool violet, unblinking, that locked Aaron in place. You came alone, she said quietly. I was ordered to, Aaron replied, voice steady though his pulse was not. Good. She stepped closer, the soft hiss of her boots against the deck echoing faintly. Then we can speak freely. That caught him off guard. The commander never spoke freely. She spoke by protocol, by law, by line item and order. Never this. About what, Commander? He asked carefully. Saris turned to a control terminal and swept her hand over it. The room dimmed further, leaving them illuminated by a single cone of light from above. On the display, an image appeared, a sensor feed. 3 jagged silhouettes moved through the darkness of space. Each shape pulsed with the red signature of weapons charging. Draken warships, Aaron said, recognizing the formation instantly. Scouts, Saris confirmed, but they are not alone. They are testing the boundary. Our boundary? The Alliance border? She nodded once. They move in small packs now, waiting, watching, searching. Aaron stepped closer, studying the patterns. They're using cloak intervals between scans. That's new, exactly. Her voice was clipped but not cold now, focused, calculating. You see what my officers did not. Aaron frowned. Why show me this privately, Commander? Shouldn't this go through tactical command? Her jaw tightened. Because I cannot trust tactical command. That silence stretched between them like tension wire. For the first time since he'd boarded, Aaron saw something in her eyes that was not authority. It was weariness, not weakness. Just the kind of fatigue that came from fighting a war the rest of the galaxy preferred to forget. The Council believes the Dracon are fractured, Saris continued. They think the war is over. But I know better. They are rebuilding and they are hunting. Hunting what? Her gaze met his again. Salarans. Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. Your people. Yes, she said softly. And me, he hesitated. Then why keep this secret? Why not alert the fleet? She gave a humorless smile. Because they'll call it paranoia. The lone survivor seeing ghosts in starlight. Aaron's voice lowered. You lost your world to them. You earned the right to see ghosts. Something flickered in her expression. Something almost human. Perhaps, she said. But ghosts don't break into secure channels. She tapped the console again. A faint signal appeared in the corner of the display. A pulse of alien code repeating every 7 seconds. Dracon encryption? Aaron asked. Modified alliance frequency, she replied grimly. They're listening from inside the network, sabotage. The word slid cold through his thoughts. How deep? He asked. Deep enough that I needed to test my crew, she said. You, human, are not yet part of their systems. You are an unknown variable, so this was a test? Partly, she admitted. But also a warning. Aaron crossed his arms. You think there's a spy on board? I know there is, Sarah said, but I can't prove it yet. And if I alert command, the leak will vanish before I find it. He considered that, the logic cold but sound. Then why involve me? Because humans think differently, she said simply. You don't rely on shared instinct or hive logic. You improvise, you question, you break things that others are afraid to touch. He gave a half smile. That's one way to describe human problem solving. It's why I requested you personally, she said. Aaron blinked. You requested me? Her eyes held his. Officially, the council assigned you. Unofficially, I gave them your name. The admission hit him like a physical blow. Why me? I read your record. The outpost on Ganymede 12. You held position with no air support and a broken turret for 7 hours. When others would have fled, you adapted. You made the impossible work. That's the kind of thinking I need now. The compliment sat uneasy in his chest. He looked again at the red blips on the display. And what exactly do you need me to do? Saris leaned forward, voice low, measured. Watch, listen. Blend in with the crew. There will be signals, odd orders, small errors. Report directly to me. No one else. You're asking me to spy on my own officers? I'm asking you to protect this ship, she corrected. Because the next attack won't come from outside. He held her gaze, searching for a lie. There wasn't one. Only truth and the weight of command she carried like armor. Finally, Aaron nodded. Understood, Commander. Sarah straightened. Good, one more thing, Lieutenant. Yes? She stepped closer. He could feel the faint warmth radiating from her skin, smell the metallic ozone that clung to her uniform. Her eyes, bright under the light, softened just a fraction. If they discover you're helping me, she said quietly, you won't get a trial. You'll simply vanish. Aaron met her gaze without flinching. Then I'll make sure they don't. For the first time, the corner of her mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. We'll see if human instinct lives up to its legend. Then she turned, shutting off the console. The room returned to dim shadow, the hum of the ship returning like a heartbeat. She stopped at the exit. Dismissed, she said. Aaron stood there for a moment after she left, the echoes of her words still hanging in the air. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of what had just been placed on his shoulders. The ship was vast. The crew numbered in hundreds. Somewhere among them, someone was feeding the enemy. And now, Aaron Cole, the outsider, the new human liaison, was the only one who knew. Outside the bay, the lights flickered once. Somewhere deep in the ship's network, the same 7-second pulse continued to whisper. The next morning began like any other aboard the Vigilant Star. Uniforms pressed. Voices clipped. Orders short. The hum of the reactor sang its steady rhythm through the decks. But for Lieutenant Commander Aaron Cole, everything now sounded different. Every footstep, every whisper, every flicker of light carried weight. Somewhere in the heart of this ship, someone was leaking secrets to the enemy, and he was the only one tasked to find them. He'd slept little. The commander's words circled in his mind like a silent storm. The next attack won't come from outside. Now, as he entered the mess hall, he forced himself to look calm, casual. He scanned the room, a mix of alien and human officers talking quietly, laughter blending with the mechanical hum. It all seemed normal. Too normal. Lieutenant Mia Lark waved him over. Morning, Detective, she teased lightly. He frowned. Detective? Your eyes are moving like you're searching for clues. He managed a small smile. Maybe I'm just looking for good coffee. She slid a mug toward him. You won't find it here. The synth brewers turn everything into regret. They sat for a moment in quiet. Then Mia's voice dropped. You've been quiet since yesterday's call from command deck. Everything okay? Aaron stirred his drink. Routine inspection. Her look said she didn't believe him, but she didn't press. As she turned to go, a sudden flicker rolled through the ceiling lights. A soft pulse, 3 blinks evenly spaced. Then gone. Most of the crew didn't notice. But Aaron did. It was the same interval as the pulse Commander Vale had shown him. 7 seconds between each signal. He froze, pretending to drink. His gaze followed the light fixtures across the ceiling, tracing the pattern toward the ship's communication relay conduit. It wasn't random. It was everywhere. He left the mess quietly and made his way to engineering under the excuse of a systems audit. The halls grew quieter the deeper he went. The glow from the walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with the hidden code. Inside the maintenance core, the chief engineer, a 4-armed Tyrellian named Drux, was calibrating a power coupler. "Commander Cole," Drux rumbled, voice deep like gravel. "You here for another inspection?" "Just reviewing data relays," Aaron said. "Command wants compatibility reports between human tech and Alliance sensors." Drux nodded. "Be careful where you poke, human. Some systems don't like to be watched." Aaron smiled politely and moved toward the access terminal. His hand hovered over the controls before connecting his wrist link. Instantly, the screen filled with lines of code, sharp alien characters interlaced with Terran binary. Someone had piggybacked on human translation code to move data through the ship's network. Every time a human file was processed, it carried a hidden signal. His chest tightened. Whoever the spy was, they weren't just in the system. They were using him. He pulled the data logs and copied them to his wrist device. A faint hiss came from behind him. "Find something interesting?" Drux asked, eyes narrowing. Aaron turned slowly. "Just a minor misalignment." "Strange," the alien engineer said, wiping grease from one of his massive hands. "You humans always find misalignments where others see perfection." Aaron smiled thinly. "Maybe that's why they sent me." He walked out before the silence became suspicious. That night he brought the logs to Commander Vale. She stood in her quarters, smaller than he expected, bare and functional. The walls displayed no personal items, no medals, only a single view of distant stars. Aaron placed the wrist device on the table. "They're using my interface code," he said. "Every time human data passes through, it triggers a signal to the external array. Someone piggybacked on it." Her expression didn't change, but her jaw tightened slightly. "How long?" "Since before I came aboard," Aaron said. "Someone inside the ship inserted the patch weeks ago." Saris moved to the window, the stars painting silver along her cheekbones. "That means the traitor was already here, and they were expecting a human officer." She turned, eyes sharp. "Do you know where the signal ends?" Aaron nodded. "Outer sensor relay, Deck 9. It runs through maintenance ducts. Too isolated for normal traffic." "Then we go there," she said. "Now?" She gave a faint smile. "You think traitors sleep?" The corridors on Deck 9 were narrow, cold, and silent. Lights pulsed faintly under emergency power, giving everything a ghostly blue hue. Their footsteps echoed softly on the metal grates. Aaron carried a compact scanner. Saris had a plasma sidearm. Every few meters she paused, head tilted slightly like she could hear the ship breathe. They reached a junction where 3 ducts met. The scanner beeped once, then twice. "There," Aaron whispered, pointing to a sealed hatch. Saris motioned him back and drew her weapon. The door hissed open. Inside was a small data node chamber in Yindus, but its panels were torn open. Cables spilled across the floor like veins. At the center, a strange device pulsed faint red. Aaron knelt beside it. "Not Alliance tech," he murmured. "Draken's signature modulation." "They're transmitting live," Saris said. "Destroy it." Before Aaron could respond, a low, rumbling voice spoke from the shadows. "I wouldn't do that." "Human." A tall silhouette stepped out from behind the machinery, scales glinting under the dim light. Lieutenant Herrick's, the very officer who had first greeted Aaron aboard the ship. Saris's eyes went hard. "You." Herrick smiled, showing teeth too sharp to be friendly. "Always suspected you'd dig too deep, Commander. The Draken pay better than medals." He raised his plasma rifle. "Step away from the node." Aaron's instincts flared. He moved slowly, hand hovering near his wrist device. "Don't," Herrick warned. "You'll both vanish in seconds, just like your world did, Vale." Her eyes blazed. "You dare?" Before she could finish, Aaron threw the scanner at the wall. The sharp crack echoed, and the device flashed bright white. The overload shorted the lights, plunging the chamber into sudden darkness. In that instant, Saris moved. Fast, silent, precise. A flash of violet light and a muffled grunt followed. When the emergency lights flickered back, Herrick's was on the floor, weapon sliding from his hand. Smoke curled from a burn across his chest armor. Sarah stood over him, breathing hard. Her gaze cut to Aaron. You improvised. He shrugged, trying to mask the adrenaline shaking his hands. You said that's why you brought me. Her lips almost curved into a smile. Remind me to never play chess with you, Lieutenant. He exhaled, scanning the room. The transmission device still blinked faintly. Sarah stepped closer, staring at it. If this signal went through. Aaron's face hardened. Then the Dracon already know we've found their spy. The commander looked toward the dark corridor beyond the hatch. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the cold light. Then we prepare for what comes next, she said. Because they're coming. And they won't just want their traitor back. The ship's distant alarms suddenly began to pulse, low, rhythmic and urgent. Outside the walls of the Vigilant Star, the stars shifted. Something vast had entered sensor range. And for the first time, the war Aaron thought was over had found him again. The alarms rolled through the corridors of the Vigilant Star like thunder trapped inside steel. Red lights cut through the cool blue glow, painting the walls in violent rhythm. Aaron and Commander Vale broke into a run, their boots hammering the deck plates as the ship came alive around them. Bridge, report! Saris barked into her comm. A burst of static answered before a strained voice broke through. Multiple warp signatures, Commander. Draken ships, 3 confirmed, maybe more. Saris shot a look at Aaron. Her expression was pure iron, but her eyes told him everything. They found us. Seal deck 9, she ordered. No one enters until I say so. Aye, Commander. They rounded a corner and dove into a lift. The door slid shut, enclosing them in darkness. The hum of the ship deepened, the tremor of engines shifting into combat readiness. Aaron caught his breath. They're here already. They must have been waiting. Harrix's last transmission gave them our position, she said flatly. They were close enough to pounce. The lift doors opened onto chaos. The bridge glowed red, officers moving in tight, coordinated motion. Holograms flickered with enemy signatures, sleek, knife-shaped Dracon ships forming a wedge around the Vigilant Star. Shields at full. Called Lieutenant 10. Weapons primed. Open wideband channel, Saris commanded. Her voice carried calm power, the kind that steadied hands and slowed hearts. A moment later, a deep, guttural tone filled the bridge speakers. The unmistakable growl of a Dracon commander. Vigilant Star, the voice rasped, thick with mockery. We have come for the last of the Salarans. Hand over Commander Saris Vale. Do so, and your crew may live. Every eye on the bridge turned to her. Saris stood tall, violet eyes gleaming in the red light. Mute channel, she said. The air went silent except for the hum of consoles. Aaron stepped closer. You know they won't stop with you. Of course not, she said quietly. They never do. She turned to her crew. Target the lead vessel. Load quantum torpedoes, Emattern Delta 5. Helm, hold course, and maintain rotation vector. If they want a war, we'll remind them why they lost the last one. Lieutenant 10 hesitated. Commander, their ships are stronger. Oi, I said fire, Lieutenant. The Vigilant Star roared. Twin streaks of white fire shot from its flanks, ripping through the void. On the tactical display, one Dracon ship veered, shields flickering under impact. The bridge erupted in motion. Direct hit! Someone shouted, enemy returning fire. The first volley struck. The ship shuddered violently, lights dimming for a moment. Aaron grabbed the edge of a console as sparks burst overhead. Shields at 68%. Reported tactical. Reroute auxiliary power. Saris ordered, moving with the calm of a storm. Engineering, stabilize plasma flow to forward generators. I want full defensive charge in 20 seconds. Aaron slid into an open station. Commander, their formation's shifting. They're flanking us. Her eyes snapped to the screen. Predict their arc, calculating. His fingers flew across the controls. They'll cut us off from the asteroid belt in under a minute. Saris's voice dropped. That's what they want. They want open space and no cover. Aaron looked up at her. Then we take the opposite. We go into the field. The asteroid belt is unstable, Lieutenant 10 warned. Radiation pockets, debris density. Perfect cover, Aaron said. They'll lose target lock. Saris studied him for half a second, then nodded. Helm full burn to Vector 419. Enter the belt. The Vigilant Star turned sharply, engines screaming as the starfield became a blur of tumbling rock and glowing dust. Massive asteroids loomed like dark titans, their surfaces cracking with reflected starlight. The crew held on as the ship weaved through the chaos. The Draken ships followed, their plasma cannons lighting up the void in angry streaks. Aaron's hands worked fast at his console. Radiation levels rising, Commander. Adjust field dampers by 12%, she said. We'll use it to mask our energy signature. He did as told, his heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of the engines. For every blast of plasma, for every near miss that scorched the shields, the ship danced tighter through the rocks. Then, out of nowhere, the stars blinked. The Draken ships vanished from sensors. Aaron frowned. Commander, I've lost them. They're cloaked, Saris said grimly. They're stalking us. A tremor ran through the deck. Impact on hull section 7. Impossible, they're behind us. Aaron brought up a secondary scan. Ghostly outlines shimmered in the static haze, faint distortions where no objects should be. They're projecting false signatures, he said. 3 decoys, 1 real ship. Can you isolate it? He hesitated. Maybe, if I use the gravitational drift pattern. Do it, she said without hesitation. He ran the calculations fast, overlaying the asteroid belt's pull against the false readings. 1 signature resisted natural drift. That's them, got it, Aaron shouted. Coordinates locked. Helm, reverse thrusters, fire aft cannons. The ship spun violently and the cannons roared. Twin beams of blue plasma cut through the darkness and struck the invisible predator. The cloak shattered in a burst of fire and debris. The bridge exploded in cheers, but Saris didn't smile. Her eyes were locked on the tactical display, where 2 more red markers were closing fast. They're regrouping, she said softly. Then the console behind her sparked and died. The lights flickered again, and for a brief instant the ship's hum stuttered. Aaron froze. Commander, that wasn't from weapons impact. Saris turned slowly. What do you mean? He tapped his wrist link, pulling up internal readings. Power fluctuation in the reactor core. Manual override triggered from engineering. Her expression darkened. Harrix wasn't working alone. Before they could react, the ship jolted again, this time harder. A low rumble rolled through the hull and alarms screamed. Reactor instability detected, the AI intoned calmly. Containment breach in progress. Saris slammed her fist against the console. They've sabotaged the core. Aaron's blood ran cold. If it blows, it won't, she said, already moving. We're going to stop it. She turned to 10. You have the bridge. Then to Aaron, her voice sharp as command steel. With me. They sprinted toward the lift as the ship trembled under enemy fire. Behind them, the bridge lights flickered and dimmed. The Draken ship circled outside like predators smelling blood. And deep within the vigilant star, a wounded heart was ready to tear itself apart. The lift plunged downward through the decks, its glass walls trembling with every distant explosion. Aaron and Commander Vale stood side by side, weapons holstered but ready, the dim red emergency light casting their faces in shadow. The rhythmic alarms echoed like a countdown, and neither spoke for the first 20 seconds. They didn't need to. When the lift stopped, the doors hissed open to reveal engineering. Chaos in motion. Smoke filled the air, mixing with the sharp scent of burning circuits. Crew members shouted over the roar of machinery. Sparks burst from a ruptured power conduit, painting the metal walls in white flashes. Status. Saris's voice cut through the noise like a blade. A terrified engineer, young, pale, eyes wide, turned to her. Containment field is destabilizing. Manual override was engaged from internal controls, not AI. We can't shut it down, it's locked. Aaron was already moving. Point me to the manual control. Core sublevel, the engineer stammered, but radiation is still within tolerance, Myron finished, glancing at Saris. We've got a few minutes before it cooks us. She nodded. Then we don't waste them. Together they moved through the storm of heat and light. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes and the deck plates vibrated beneath their boots. The sound of the reactor, a deep, pulsing hum, grew louder with every step. They reached the reactor chamber. The containment field shimmered like liquid glass around a swirling sphere of blue energy. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. The heart of the ship, dying in slow motion. Aaron scanned the control panel. Someone rerouted the safety interlocks. They fused the circuit pathways. Saris frowned. Can you override it? Not from here. He pointed to a maintenance shaft on the far side of the chamber. I need to reach the secondary coolant regulator manually. She followed his gaze. The shaft was narrow, dark, and pulsing with heat. That path is lethal. Not yet, he said, already pulling on a heat seal harness. But it will be if we wait any longer. Saris's jaw clenched. You'll need someone to hold the flow regulator when you trigger the bypass. Aaron shook his head. You need to coordinate the field stabilizer from here. If it collapses while I'm inside, the whole ship goes with me. She stepped closer, her violet eyes sharp. You assume I would let that happen? He managed a small grin despite the sweat on his brow. I assume you'll do whatever it takes to save the ship, Commander. Something flickered behind her expression, something almost human. You're a fool, she said softly. Most humans are, he replied, then crawled into the shaft. The heat hit him like a wave. The shaft's metal walls shimmered red, the air thick and burning. He crawled forward, each movement careful, muscles straining against the heat. The hum of the reactor pulsed through the walls, steady and immense, like the heartbeat of a living god. Sweat ran down his neck as he reached the coolant regulator. The controls were fused together, melted from sabotage. He could see the bypass lever half welded in place. Commander, he said through the comm, his voice rough. I found the regulator, but it's jammed. Her reply came sharp through static. You have 90 seconds before the containment hits failure threshold. Copy. He braced his boots and pulled. The lever resisted, locked in place. The heat burned his palms even through the gloves. He gritted his teeth, pulled harder. Metal screeched. 60 seconds, Sarah said. The lever gave an inch, then stopped again. His arms shook. The smell of ozone filled his nose. Come on. 30 seconds, her voice came again, low now. Commander, don't stop, she said. You're almost there. Her voice steadied him. Not cold, not commanding. Encouraging. Quiet fire behind every word. He braced again, drew in a breath that felt like inhaling fire, and slammed the lever down with every ounce of strength. It snapped free. A rush of cold vapor burst from the regulator. The lights flickered. Bypass complete, he gasped. Redirect flow now. Back in the chamber, Saris's hands flew over the controls. The reactor's glow dimmed slightly, the violent pulse steadying into rhythm again. Containment field stabilizing, the engineer shouted. Aaron slumped in the shaft, lungs burning. The comm crackled. Cole, Saris's voice said quietly. Report, he laughed weakly. Still alive, and mildly roasted. Get out of there, she ordered, though her tone carried a rare softness. He crawled back, slower this time. As he reached the chamber, she was waiting at the hatch. The red lights glinted off her silver hair, sweat streaking her copper skin. When he stumbled out, she caught his arm to steady him. For a moment they were close, too close. The hum of the reactor faded to a soft thrum behind them. You did well, she said simply. Thank you, Commander, he replied, trying not to sound breathless. Her hand lingered a second longer than protocol allowed before she let go. The core is stable, but the enemy isn't done. As if summoned by her words, the ship's alarm shifted tone again. The pitch sharper now, urgent. A voice crackled over the intercom. Commander, enemy ships have breached the outer perimeter. They're boarding. Saris's expression hardened instantly. They're coming for me. Then we make them regret it, Aaron said. She turned toward him, the faintest glint of admiration in her violet eyes. You talk like a soldier. I am a soldier, he said, but I'm also human. We fight harder when someone's worth protecting. Her breath caught for the briefest second. Then she straightened, slipping back into command mode. Armory deck now. We hold the ship. As they raced through the trembling corridors, the ship's lights flickered again. Distant gunfire echoed through the vents. Somewhere above them, the sound of hull breaches rattled the air like thunder. Aaron drew his weapon and checked the charge. You think they'll take prisoners? Not this time, Sarah said, her voice calm but lethal. They've come for me, but they'll learn what happens when you corner a Salaran. The floor shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The intercom crackled again, this time filled with screams and static. Draken units. Breaching Deck 6, hull. Compromised. Then silence. Aaron met her gaze. They're inside. Saris drew her blade, a curved plasma-edged weapon that shimmered like molten glass. Her eyes gleamed with determination. Then we stop them here, she said. Because if they reach the bridge, no one else will live to tell the story. The two of them moved forward into the smoke and fire, toward the sound of war returning, and for the first time, since he'd joined the Vigilant Star, Aaron Cole realized something deeper than fear or duty. The battle for this ship wasn't about orders anymore. It was about survival. And somewhere beneath that, maybe even about something more. The corridor beyond the armory was a nightmare of flashing alarms and drifting smoke. The air shimmered with heat and ozone. Emergency bulkheads sealed and unsealed in rapid sequence as the Vigilant Star fought to contain the damage from multiple hull breaches. Somewhere below deck, the thrum of the reactor echoed like a heartbeat trying to hold the ship alive. Commander Saris Vale strode at the front, every motion sharp, precise, lethal. The plasma blade in her hand cast a violet glow along the smoke-stained walls. Behind her, Lieutenant Commander Aaron Cole followed, weapon drawn, the weight of exhaustion and adrenaline warring in his chest. Overhead, the ship's AI droned warnings through the chaos. Intruder units detected on decks 6, 7, and 10. Internal security compromised. They turned a corner just as the first explosion hit. The deck shook violently, throwing both of them against the wall. A split second later, black-armored Draken soldiers poured from the haze. Scaled giants with weapons that burned red-hot, their snarls echoing through the narrow hall. Aaron didn't hesitate. He fired first, 3 sharp bursts of plasma cutting through the smoke. One enemy fell. The others returned fire, their bolts searing across the corridor, chewing into the walls. "Flank them!" Saris ordered, moving like lightning. She vanished into a side alcove, reappearing behind the enemy line. Her blade cut arcs of violet through the smoke, clean, precise, silent. Each strike hit true. By the time Aaron reloaded, the last Dracon fell, armor smoking. She wiped the blade against her sleeve, her breathing controlled. "Efficient," Aaron said, half smiling despite the chaos. She gave a short glance. "You shoot well for someone who's never faced Dracon infantry." "I've faced worse," he said. Humans with nothing left to lose. For the first time since the battle began, she almost smiled. "Let's see if you can keep that confidence when the next wave hits." They reached the armory deck. Dozens of officers, human and alien alike, scrambled to prepare defenses. Shields hummed as portable barriers came online. The air was electric with tension. Lieutenant 10 appeared from behind a console, his blue skin marred with soot. "Commander, we've sealed decks 5 through 9, but the Dracon are inside 10. They're cutting through the corridor bulkheads." "How many?" Saris demanded. 2 squads, maybe 3. They're targeting the bridge elevator shaft." "They're going for control," Aaron said grimly. Saris nodded. "Then we hold this line." She turned to the crew. "Listen carefully. We've lost comms to the fleet. The Vigilant Star stands alone, but that's how legends begin. No Draken crosses this deck. No one falls back. You hold or you die trying. Understood?" The crew responded with a unified shout. The sound reverberated through the metal like thunder. Aaron took a position near the forward barricade beside a young Tyrellian gunner, whose hands trembled as he checked his weapon. "You ever fought Draken before?" Aaron asked. The soldier shook his head. "No, sir. Only simulations." "Then remember one thing," Aaron said, voice low. "They bleed." The deck lights flickered. The sound of grinding metal filled the air, a cutting torch biting through the bulkhead at the far end of the corridor. Sparks showered across the floor. "They're coming," Saris said, stepping to the front. Her presence alone steadied the line. "Hold your fire until I say." The metal door cracked open, then burst inward. The first Dracon charged through, roaring. "Now!" Saris shouted. The corridor erupted in blinding light and thunder. Plasma bolts filled the air, striking the invaders with searing precision. Aaron ducked behind the barricade, firing in short bursts, every shot deliberate. The Tyrellian beside him steadied and joined in. 2 Dracon fell. A third crashed through the barrier, claws tearing at the plating. Aaron rolled aside and fired upward, hitting the creature square in the chest. It howled, armor glowing red-hot before collapsing in a heap. The air was thick with smoke and heat. Alarms blared. The deck shook again, the sound of more boarding pods slamming into the ship's hull. "Commander," 10 shouted. Multiple breaches on the aft section. "Seal it off," Saris ordered. "We can't. The override's gone." "They're inside the engine bay." Aaron turned sharply. The engine bay connects to the reactor chamber. Saris's eyes darkened. "Then they're trying to destroy the ship from within. Or capture it," Aaron said. "They want you alive." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Then we make sure they regret the attempt." They pushed through the smoke toward the engine bay. Every corridor was a battlefield, bodies, scorch marks, and flickering lights. The closer they got, the hotter the air became. The sound of metal on metal echoed through the vents, the Drakon tearing apart the ship's heart piece by piece. At the final junction, Saris halted, her hand lifted, signaling silence. Aaron crouched beside her. Through the haze ahead, they saw them. A group of Draken soldiers clustered around the coolant conduits, attaching explosive charges to the walls. Too many for direct assault, Aaron whispered. Saris's gaze shifted to the overhead piping. Then we don't go direct. She holstered her blade, climbed the maintenance ladder silently, and disappeared into the dark vent above. Aaron waited, listening. Seconds later, a faint clang. Then 2 Draken collapsed, necks snapped from above. Aaron smirked, shaking his head. She moves like smoke. He sprang from cover, firing at the remaining enemies. Plasma fire tore through the room. The last of the Drakon turned, too slow. Saris dropped behind them, her blade carving through armor with lethal grace. Silence returned. Only the hiss of cooling metal remained. Aaron stepped forward. Charges are active. I can disarm them. He knelt by the nearest explosive, hands working fast. The device pulsed red, countdown flashing in alien script. 15 seconds, he muttered. Simple timer circuit, no encryption. 10, Saris said quietly. He twisted 2 wires and yanked the power cell free. The light went dark. She exhaled. That's one. He moved to the second charge, sweat running down his temple. These bastards don't quit. Neither do we, she said. As he pulled the final wire, the ship's intercom crackled again. A voice, harsh, alien, unfilled the air. You cannot run, Salarin. You cannot hide behind these fragile humans. Surrender and your crew will be spared. Saris looked up at the ceiling speaker, her jaw tight. That voice, she whispered. I know it. Aaron glanced at her. Who is it? Commander Razkar, she said bitterly. He led the assault on my homeworld. Then it's personal, Aaron said. It always was. The red lights flashed again, the universal signal for hull breach. Commander, Ten's voice broke through the comm. Another boarding wave and 50 units. They're cutting through deck 12. Saris looked toward the elevator shaft. That's 1 deck below us. Aaron reloaded, his expression hard. We can't hold that many. No, she agreed. But we can slow them. She turned to him, eyes fierce, violet light reflecting off the smoke. Cole, I need you to access the internal defense grid. Tie it to manual override. I'll draw them into the corridor. That's suicide, he said. Only if you're slow. Before he could argue, she was already moving, her steps silent, her posture steady. Aaron slammed a hand against the wall panel, pulling up the defense schematics. He rerouted power to the turrets lining the corridor. Seconds later, Saris's voice echoed through his comm. Now, human. He hit the command. The corridor erupted in fire. Turrets flared to life, plasma streams filling the hall. The Drakon charge faltered, their formation torn apart by the deadly storm. Through the smoke, Saris moved like a shadow, her blade slicing through what the guns missed. She fought with precision, every motion purposeful, efficient, graceful. When the last Drakon fell, she stood amid the wreckage, breathing hard, armor scorched but eyes blazing. Aaron joined her, lowering his rifle. Remind me never to make you angry. She allowed herself a small, rare smile. Too late, the ship groaned under its own weight. Outside, the stars burned red, the reflection of Drakon warships closing in. Commander, Aaron said quietly, scanning the sensors. They're regrouping for another assault. Saris looked at the damage around them. The dead, the smoke, the flickering lights. We've done all we can here. So what now? Her gaze lifted toward the distant viewports where the enemy fleet gathered like wolves. Now, she said, her voice a steady whisper. We take the fight to them. Aaron stared at her, realization dawning. You're not thinking, she met his eyes. We have one last weapon left, Lieutenant. One they'll never see coming. The floor trembled again, distant explosions echoing from the lower decks. Saris raised her blade, the reflection of fire dancing across her skin. Get to the command core, she said. It's time we remind the galaxy why humans and Salarins make a dangerous team. And together, bruised but unbroken, they turned toward the bridge, to face the storm that waited in the dark. The lift to the command core trembled as it climbed through the battered decks of the Vigilant Star. Sparks flickered behind its panels, and the hum of the engines sounded more like a groan. Outside, the distant rumble of plasma fire still echoed. The war wasn't over, only paused. Commander Saris Vale stood in silence beside Lieutenant Commander Aaron Cole. Her silver hair was streaked with soot, her copper skin marred by cuts, her violet eyes glowing with cold fire. She didn't look like the elegant diplomat from his first day aboard. She looked like a survivor, and a commander who'd lost too much to lose again. Aaron reloaded his plasma rifle, jaw tight. "You sure this'll work?" "It will," she said simply. "And if it doesn't? Then we make sure the Draken never forget the name of this ship." The doors opened onto the bridge, or what was left of it. Half the consoles were scorched black. Smoke curled from cracked panels. A faint orange glow pulsed from the emergency lighting. Lieutenant 10 and the remaining officers were already at their stations, faces pale but resolute. "Status?" Saris demanded. "Shields at 28%, 10 replied. "Weapons minimal. Hull integrity dropping across decks 11 through 14. External sensors show 3 Dracon cruisers closing fast." Aaron's hands clenched around his weapon. "They're going to finish what they started." "Not if we finish it first," Saris said, striding to the command chair. 10 hesitated. "Commander, the ship's too damaged to run. If you're planning to fight—" "I'm planning to win," she interrupted. She looked to Aaron. "Bring up the auxiliary controls." He nodded, pulling up a holographic interface. The system flickered before stabilizing. "Auxiliary online, Commander." "Good," she said. "Then let's make history." Outside, the Draken cruisers loomed closer, black silhouettes against the burning stars. Their hulls shimmered with faint red energy, weapons charging. The lead vessel sent another transmission, the same guttural voice that had haunted Saris's nightmares for years. "Salarin Commander," the Dracon said. "Surrender yourself and your human pet. We'll make your deaths educational." Aaron looked up sharply, anger flashing in his blue eyes. "Pet?" Saris's lips curved just barely. "Ignore him. Predators talk loud when they're afraid." She turned to her crew. "Route all remaining power to the forward reactors." "Disable weapons," 10 stared. "Disable? Commander, we'll be defenseless." "Exactly," she said. "Let them think we're broken." Aaron's eyes widened as realization hit. "You're baiting them." Her tone was calm. "The Dracon expect strength. They don't understand sacrifice." She tapped the console, activating a hidden command key. A secondary display lit up with a pulsing symbol, the ether drive. A prototype system buried deep in the ship's core, unstable, unfinished. "Wait," Aaron said. "That's the experimental phase shift core, isn't it? The one the engineers said was too dangerous to activate." "Yes," she said. "It's time to make it dangerous for them instead." 10's hands trembled. "Commander, that device could collapse spacetime around the ship." Saris nodded once, "Which is why we'll make sure it collapses around them." Aaron stared at the data streams racing across the console. "If we trigger the core, it'll take 30 seconds to stabilize the field." "That's 30 seconds of open fire." "I trust you to hold them off," Saris said. He looked at her, meeting her eyes. "You really think we'll survive this?" Her voice softened. "Hope is a luxury I can't afford. But faith I can choose." He swallowed, then nodded. "Then I'll make sure your faith isn't wasted," she almost smiled. "Good, because when this is over, you'll owe me a drink." "Deal." The Dracon ships fired first. Blazing red lances tore through the void, slamming into the vigilant star's failing shields. The ship shook violently, consoles sparking. One officer was thrown to the floor. Aaron pulled her back to safety without missing a beat. Shields collapsing. 10 shouted. "Maintain position," Saris ordered. "Hold steady!" The Draken closed in, confident, predatory. Inside the command core, the ether drive began to spin. Its hum deepened, rising from a vibration to a roar. Light burst from the deck, blue, white, then violet. The air itself seemed to twist. "Core charge at 60%, Aaron called. "Keep firing," Saris said. 10 frowned. "But you said—" "Not at them," she said. "At the asteroids." The tactical display flared. Aaron saw it instantly. The fragments of the destroyed belt around them. Giant slabs of rock drifting between the ships, they fired. 1, 2, 3 shots. Plasma bolts struck the largest asteroid, fracturing it apart. The debris field expanded, just as the Dracon moved closer. "Commander," Aaron said, grinning despite the chaos. "You're pulling them into the blast zone." "Exactly. Core at 90%. The ship shook again. Another volley tore through the aft hull. Warnings blared. "Critical damage to decks 13 and 14. Cirrus didn't flinch. "Hold on! Core at 100, Aaron shouted. She slammed her hand down on the final control. "Engage the phase shift." The world went white. For a heartbeat, there was no sound, only pressure, gravity folding inward, light bending until it became silence. Then it exploded outward. The vigilant star vanished into a wave of energy, dragging the surrounding asteroids and the Dracon fleet into a spiral of warped space. Time itself fractured, seconds stretched, light stuttered, and then in one blinding instant everything collapsed inward. The Dracon ships disintegrated. Their armor peeled away molecule by molecule, vanishing into the void. The shockwave rippled outward, scattering the debris across the system. Inside the command core, every system went dark. Then stillness. When Aryan opened his eyes, the bridge was quiet. The emergency lights glowed faint blue again. Smoke drifted gently in the air. He coughed. "Commander?" From across the deck, Sarah stirred. She stood slowly, her silver hair now almost glowing from the residual energy of the phase field. "Status," she said, voice low but steady. 10. Alive but shaken. Checked the readings. Dracon fleet. "Gone, Commander. The sensors show nothing left but radiation trails." Aaron exhaled. "We did it." Cirrus looked at the main viewport, the stars now calm and clear. "No," she said softly. "You did it," he smiled faintly. "Team effort, remember?" Her gaze met his, tired, grateful, unguarded for the first time. "You were reckless, unpredictable, and insubordinate," he raised a brow. And you saved us all." They stood there in silence for a long moment, the hum of the battered ship the only sound. Then she spoke again, quieter this time. "When I brought you aboard, I thought I was just getting a liaison. Instead, I got something far more dangerous," Aaron chuckled. "A friend? A human," she said, a faint smile touching her lips. "And humanity always changes everything." Outside, the remnants of the Dracon fleet drifted into darkness. Ashes of a war reignited and ended in the same breath. Inside, on the bridge of the scarred vigilant star, a human and a Salaran stood side by side, watching the stars reclaim their silence. Neither spoke again for a while. They didn't need to, because in that silence and in that shared breath between death and survival, humanity had just written another legend into the stars, and the galaxy would remember.